Hello, everybody. Please share this video, you guys. We finally made it live. For those of you guys that are watching, me and Laura have been trying to do this for a couple days. We're in the height of some wild eclipse actions, you guys. There's literally a portal open in your body right now that only opens a few times a year when certain types of astrological alignments take place. And so everything's very intense. Everything's very crazy. And Laura and I just decided to gather here together today to talk to everybody about what's going on in your world and your body. And we tried to do a little bit of a live stream a few minutes ago that got kind of diverted. But Laura, how are you doing? Hello, thank you. It's a little weird today. What's happening?
Oh, everything's pretty good. It's really great to be here with you. And yeah, I mean, we're in a day of a really powerful eclipse. And we've been talking about getting together, for the last couple of days. And it hasn't been so easy to connect, but, it's all about like letting go and surrendering. There's some things that are going to try and sabotage, but in that moment of sabotage is the moment for a great awakening and to be able to harness and override frequency and not let these lower forces like actually bring us down. So I feel like it's really awesome that we're connecting because, we could have just been like, oh, screw it. It's just not working out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much that we're like looking to bring attention to. Right. We were talking about timelines, the meme that you created about our show. Yeah, I just want to hear your thoughts.
First of all, thank you. I'm going to start with just a little bit of a rewind. For those of you guys that were here earlier, we started out talking about some of what I believe, and as we talk about this sort of eclipse and some of the energy and some of the events that are happening, we're in the height right now of a lunar eclipse. And I don't know too much about the astrology of it. That's why Laura's here, because she's also going to be talking to everybody on the live about that. But what I can tell you, everyone, is that we are in one of the most intense stages for your emotional templates, the emotional body. There is an emotional body that we all have. And what's happening with this eclipse right now, everyone, is that we are in one of the most critical stages for transformation and for movement forward, for literally you guys changing a physical timeline. And so what happens in the month of June from the work that I have been doing is a two-part process. Number one, between looks like the 1st of June and about the 7th of June, we have an emotional template that's changing in the body. This emotional template will be corresponding with certain alliances, groups, individuals, agreements, pacts. We could even say groups of people coming together, joining in force. And so what's happening right now, the reason why we're kind of here today is because there's this literal frequency that's coming out. There's a call to action for people right now that have chosen to move away from this transhumanist timeline, this timeline of like disease and fear and negative, we could say negative archontic behavior because we're going to get weird. But, so what I have been seeing is tremendous changes in the human body. And so, I don't know, hopefully some of that makes sense to you, but how are you feeling about this eclipse alignment astrologically? What comes up?
Well, it seems like it's opening a huge portal. I mean, and when we look at that, it's like, what does that mean? I mean, when people say the word extraterrestrial or alien, it almost, or a religion or politics, it's always something external. But all these things, like we are made of, we hold way more of a resonance than we realize. And so everything that you're saying is like a huge part of a growth period that humanity is going through. And it can't separate itself to the point of reacting to something that isn't like attaching itself to something that's going on inwardly, so we got to win the war within ourselves. So things surrounding this a powerful eclipse time is very much connected to the throat chakra and our capacity to bring in our higher self and communicate from that place instead of being thrown into an entanglement and like a draining like influence that is like looking to harvest our energies. Like we have to like see these adverse times in history, which we've been dealing with over and over again, and let it remind us of who we truly are, and let it transform out of being a weapon and a reason to turn against each other and become, you know, a reminder of like, you know, what is most necessary right now. And none of this is light stuff. It's not light stuff. It's like a very critical window period.
Yeah.
And I'm not the kind of person that wants to overemphasize fear, but I want to emphasize like, come on, everybody, we all have to like sync up with each other. I mean, there's been false flags and dark technologies that we've been dealing with for thousands of years. We have a huge opportunity to break through. And it doesn't make sense for people to not like each other based on superficialities.
I feel you on that.
And I feel like a lot of people are feeling into their own personal calling and mission, and they're willing to walk away from their corporate job or their matrix, you know, connection, and where they're feeding into that parasitic system, and they're more ready to like join this unified field that is not looking for new world order version of it on a new age level or on a tyrannical level, but like literally where a person recognizes the more authentic and genuine we can become, the more able we are to actually facilitate unity consciousness that affects positive change. I mean, any new world order system is coming from a lot of competing agendas. It wants everybody to be in this group mind or hive mind. But I feel a lot of faith in all of us recognizing that our challenge right now is to be sovereign and to recognize where we need boundaries, but to also appreciate diversity and not go to war with somebody if they don't agree with us. Where truth is more a frequency of love and unity and respect instead of, oh, I'm right. It's like that ego tendency. Like, you know, I think we're on a collective level going to have a breakthrough like that, where it's not an information war. It's, oh my gosh, well, your information might tell you this, but what is it doing to you? Is it making you a more connected person with everybody else, or is it making you an egomaniac and a narcissist? I mean, people need to see how we're being played and not get too attached to the storyline. Like, attach yourself more to the alchemical process that these times represent.
Oh no, I feel you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna rewind very briefly back to or what I heard, a very like, it's like a vibratory word. Every now and then when I'm talking with somebody on these things, it's like they will say a word or a phrase or an element, and it's like this sort of, it's almost like a polygraph chart, you guys, and you get this big spike. And you were talking about truth and you know, people's, you know, this sort of conflict stage or this frequency based thing, and I can literally hear it in my ear at this moment, which is crazy. But what it is, for those of you guys that are kind of listening and you're wondering, like, what are we talking about here? I'm going to describe it from my point of view, and I believe it is a pressurization of the emotional energy centers in the body, and it takes place during periods like this. It's happened all throughout history, in which humanity has been sort of, it's like this mold that will get placed over, you know, like a piece of clay, and they'll try to push it down. And if we're not sovereign, if we're not aware of the emotional pressure points or the frequencies that are built up in the body, we will allow that sort of uncontrolled energy to be molded and formed. And right now, everyone, we are being molded and formed and corralled through, in many cases, what feels like the manufactured violence, a literal, what I believe to be a technological frequency that is being broadcasted and is then spread by the human body in large groups of individuals for the purpose of continuing this thing. And so I guess what I was getting from you is that it's time for us to maintain and to just be aware of our emotional sovereignty. At least that's what I took from you know, what you were saying. How does that?
Well, thanks. Oh gosh, that you were framing it around anything that I shared. I mean, you're just so brilliant, and I've had such a great experience, like interviewing you and getting to know you. But yeah, I mean, I think we are being triggered. The Me Too movement, racism. I mean, there's a multiple amount of categories of where there have been trigger events that have been placed upon us. Starting like with that big event in 9/11, whatever. I mean, it's been going on for a long time with world wars, and the fact that there is a group of individuals that actually fund both sides of wars. They literally live to create chaos and division between us. And so when we're trying to fight for something, doesn't mean it's not justified, doesn't mean it's not worthy, but there is a counterattack. So we need to separate ourselves from the way society and the bigger system, through news, through media, through Hollywood, through the entertainment industries, through even religion, and the lack of wanting to connect with religion to go into the left-hand path. It's some sort of atheism to the point where it's like people are just looking for something outside themselves to give them a sense of self-worth. It's like people need to let go of that shit. It's like, get back to yourself. What is your inner voice telling you? What is your higher guidance telling you? You know, like we need to appreciate the diversity of those conclusions instead of like have to battle these outside narratives that are literally pitting us all against each other. And we have to understand that in our genetic codes that are dormant, all these ET races exist. So the exploded planets that created the asteroid belt have created a lot of fragmentation to the point where we think it's normal to battle something, to fight something, and to hate something, and to negate something, and to be victimized by something. We have to understand like a much larger picture behind it so that we can accept the fact that we are way more connected than we realize. I mean, my last interview was like, my lasting word that I said, we love each other way more than we can imagine. Like, why are we letting ourselves get so played? And I wrote something that was very transparent. I'm like, you know, a lot of the narratives that are floating around is trying to encourage people to feel guilty and shamed. Oh, you're white. You have white privilege. And it's like, I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, that's not a really good vibration.
I feel you. You know, if I may just really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and be the one that's going to make this weird. Everybody knows I'm going to do that, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that really quick, because what people are seeing, for those of you guys that are wondering, you're watching these sort of these manufactured sort of movements toward the sort of an acquiescence, a succumbing, a sort of beholdence that we are suddenly being called to sort of display publicly. This is not about on any level a racial thing. It is actually a mind control tactic and a ritualistic procedure that takes place in certain stages, just like this, in which our energy, things are changing, timelines are changing. In this case, it's an eclipse. And so what it is this expanded period of opening in the human energy body system. If we are not sovereign and aware of that, if we are not, you know, capable of, you know, being sovereign in our emotions, in our own energy body, what happens is we will succumb to that frequency, and it will literally pull you and keep you held into that conflict state. And if some of you guys are able to follow where I'm going with this, what is Matthew really talking about? And Laura, hopefully you can comment on this as well. The Wetiko, the mind virus, or the concept of a mind virus that is being sort of inoculated and spreaded. And at some point, you will have to give consent to the viral upload. And so what we're seeing suddenly is an acquiescence, a kneeling, a giving of consent. And so anyway, I would like
oh my
to
God, you're so brilliant. No, to me, a virus is something that pulls us away from our true connection with source, pulls us away from our authentic connection with things that help us to upgrade, regenerate, and stay in alignment with something that is really healthy. So these infiltrations happen, and because it comes through the news, and because people form relationships with outside people, they get overly attached and they believe in it. It's the guru complex. It's politics. It's entertainment industry. It's the royal family. It's all these different things that have been the power structures that people actually emulate and give their power away to. They actually think that those people are like, yeah, and they live through them and they give their power away. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
But
Have
at
you
the
seen
same
that?
time, I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, and then I will comment. Go ahead.
oh, well, based on what you were saying, we have an internal ability to know what to do and how to handle these times. It's just this outer stuff needs to turn into something more flexible where we're empowered as sovereign beings and we will find our soul groups, but it doesn't create division. It doesn't create animosity. It doesn't create war. I mean, we need to accept the fact that like we're not all the same, but we're parts of each other. And the best thing we can do is learn to fall in love with it instead of hate it. I mean, how does that make any sense? I mean, my struggle right now is I don't understand why that is so difficult for people. It's like I'm supposed to be guilty for being a white person. I feel actually more black than white, except I have fucking white skin. I've always like, I grew up with, I mean, and I go to China and like I travel the world and I feel close with everybody. I mean, I don't want to feel like ashamed of the physical vessel that I was given.
Oh, absolutely. You have no reason to be. What you're experiencing when you feel, and once again, this is just my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt, but we have all had that projected upon us over the past few weeks. But it started with, and this is, once again, this is Matthew's point of view, so some people are going to be like, whatever, man, this is crazy. But it started with an enhanced period of isolation and incubation and this sort of self-imposed frequency of fear and hypervigilance. It's as if the body was sort of loaded for it. The human complex was loaded for it. It started, as we all know, with this most recent thing right around February, and it's continued ever since. And so now what we've had is this pressure cooker of human emotion and this big, tight, it's sort of like a balloon is getting tighter. And what happens is we're at the stage in which for many people that balloon is popping. It's just being, everything's gushing out. And, maybe it's a little early, but what is happening for everyone else out there, and I'm going to suddenly turn a bizarre corner with this, Laura, because where I'm going is, once again, we are about to have one of the hugest timeline shifts of our entire life. And for those of us that are experiencing or allowing that virus or the mind virus or this artificial shame and guilt that's being transmitted upon elements of our populace, if we allow that to get out of control and this thing pops, it's as if we lose. It's almost as if that, and here we go with another weird metaphor, it's as if the sort of groove on the record, the needle goes and it comes off, and many of us are stuck in that stage right now. And so I think when we buy into this sort of inbuilt guilt that says I should be ashamed for being a human at this stage.
Oh my God, we're totally on the same page.
Yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
No, you keep going. I'm just like, I wasn't sure if you were like not on the same page, and I was like totally open-minded, but like, oh my God, we're totally on the same page.
No,
you gotta keep going. No, please.
We are watching the same events roll out. I would say, probably more so focused in sort of Matthew's weird end in that what I have been watching, actually, let's get really weird, everybody. I think what we are also experiencing is an inoculation of the next stage of an AI virus that is being transmitted and carried through that new internet that nobody can say online. Everyone knows what 2 letters it is. But I believe that one of the things we are watching with respect to the play out of violence is also a testing of a frequency that for those that have been fully inoculated with whatever this frequency of hypervigilance and fear is, what they're going to be doing in the coming years is sort of turning us and sort of corralling us. And I have a feeling next year, if we buy into this unfortunate AI timeline, that next year, right around this time, there will suddenly be a whole new outbreak and a whole new political whatever, a whole new violent wave. And anyway, I'm already rambling.
Yeah, no, you're right, though. I mean, there's so many people that are so bought into the narrative and the propaganda, and it's like there's a lot of competing agendas. And so like the more somebody chooses one thing and it negates the other thing, it's like we're missing the mark. We need to integrate polarity. I mean, we need to understand everything and open our minds up and not be so fixed on something to the point we can't hear the rest of it. But it doesn't mean that it's truth, because there's a lot of false narratives. But if we can come closer to each other and be like, I want to listen to you and I want to hear why everything is manifested for you. Can you hear me too? It's like the North and South Node right now is everything about communication. Like we need to, if we're gonna like let go of mind control at all, the first place that we can do that is learning to treat one another with more love and respect, and not be so fixated on a belief system that we shut somebody else down. And, you know, there's certain people that are attached to truth that absolutely override some of the people that we're seeing that are totally like, oh my God, what's the fuck is wrong with you, right? But it doesn't do well when the ego attaches itself to it. It's like, if it really means that much and it's that much of a truth, you know, let's be patient, you know? Why do we have to fight for something that is so organic that it's going to prove itself in the end? Truth doesn't need believers. Truth stands on its own. And so I worry about like the battles, you know, and the loss of friendships, the loss of family. It's like, you know, this is what these programs and agendas are seeking. So can we like laugh it off and just be like, you know what? It's way more important for me to stay in a good vibe with you, even if we're not on the same page or agree with each other. Because the most awakened ones don't realize that when they can't accept where other people are at and they don't have a patience and compassion, they're feeding, you know, the very thing they don't want. And I got to keep myself in check too. It's like I get really pissed and I'm just like, what the fuck? I just want fat.
Yeah.
But I, you know.
No, I do. I feel you. I'm gonna instantly react to that by turning a weird anatomical corner. For those people who know me, they know I'm gonna go there. But what you also mentioned once again is a very popular word for me. It's the frequency of truth, or our ability as a people, as a country, as an individual, as a soul group right now, to be able to take in information, whether it's TV or social media or our friends and family, who many of us are having very strange relations with at the moment. But one of the hallmarks of this early fourth density stage experience, and what I call the lower octaves of fourth density, if you want to get technical, is that we begin to experience what I call a surge, or, you know, in Law of One, they call it yellow ray activation. But what it is essentially is a bubble of momentum that will appear inside areas on the energy body. And right now, as a collective, we're experiencing a big surge of energy in the solar plexus. There's going to be people on this live stream that will feel it as soon as I even talk about it. What I believe is happening is that, and here is the part that I'm hoping you can sort of comment on, is I believe this bubble that builds at this stage right now is coming to a head with June 21st's solar eclipse. It's one of many sort of heads or stopping points, but especially with, you know, the frequency of truth right now, we have an ability that is opening up for each of us. And I'm wondering if you can comment, and I know this is a very roundabout way to get to this question, but if you can comment on what you're seeing in terms of the abilities and how people are sort of gauging truth, because everyone's getting distorted with it right now. Unpack whatever of that you can. I realized it was dense.
I think it's kind of inevitable that people are going to have a breakthrough in their life. It's like, you know, if you're any, even if it's like just the smallest string of connection with your soul, you're going to be able to listen to your inner guidance. You're going to be able to see through the lies. You're also going to like be sovereign enough to not have to attach yourself to a group mind. You'll challenge it, but it's not going to cause hatred or war. It's going to be about respect and appreciation for something that can come from it, like building a new world and a new society. It's like, it's up to us as people. The government structure doesn't really serve us. I mean, I feel good about this administration, but I've never voted. I mean, I don't have any reason to feel good about anything, even if I'm related to a president. I know he was compromised. I know he was used. And it's like, and it's a big bummer. It's like, oh my God, like seriously, you had to go through that. So I see that. But I mean, I guess the final point is people are going to, what I feel is get closer to themselves and feel a lot more confident in their own truth. And the old model of how to build self-esteem coming from school systems, coming from false education systems, coming from the way your parents teach you, like we're going to let go of that. We're going to connect with something much deeper. We're going to find soul family. We're going to help to rehabilitate together. And we're going to hold a lot of compassion. And even if the belief systems feel distorted, it's like, that's not the priority. This is not an information war. We are actually going to connect on a deeper level. And we're going to say, okay, fine, you think that, and I think this, but you know what? I prefer to love you and respect you. And that's more important than, you know, submitting to this bullshit propaganda coming from really dark and negative forces that literally want to like siphon our energies and possess us. And you know how they possess us is if we choose hatred because we're different. It's like, no, our life lesson as humans coming into this experience is, I love you, even if you think differently, but you know, but we're curious enough to have a greater conversation to figure out, you know, what truth might be or what truth might not be. Like, can we just like hold hands together? I mean, my mission in life is we're going to hold hands together. I don't submit to this like hatred and division and racism. And it's like, no, it doesn't work. Not in my world.
The energy.
I feel like I feel like my mom had an affair with a Rasta dude because I always had dreadlocks and I'm still growing dreadlocks. Here we go.
I think they're coming back. It looks like maybe they should come back. Nice.
Oh, but I've always had, but I've never tried to have dreadlocks. Okay, this is beyond the point.
No, I feel you though. I feel you. I will also ask. This is kind of a weird roundabout, convoluted comment/question. It's also very timeline related, but I have this personal download, a thing that's been happening for me, and it's a little bit of this. It's kind of a running sort of frequency that I've been tapping into. Other people I think are getting into it, but I think what we're experiencing with this, for those of you guys that are watching, what is ultimately a trio of eclipses. I think the last one is on July something or other, maybe July 4th.
Well, like today, like yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry, what's that?
Oh, the June 5th lunar eclipse. But yeah, it's like going into all these other things. But anyway, keep going.
And then right. And then we have the July. I think there's one in July as well. But anyway, where I was going with that is that I believe right now, you guys, we are at a stage in which the next, I would say about 30 days or so, those of us that are on, you know, tuning into our own internal realm, those of us that are choosing to divert our focus away from this frequency of fear and hypervigilance and what is ultimately this AI timeline that we're being corralled into. For those of us, and probably everyone that's watching this live stream, if you're here watching this live stream, this is probably the reason why you are meant to be here, because we're having a massive collective activation in the month of June 2020. Laura and I have been talking about it in our own roundabout ways. One of those has to do with an eclipse taking place here today. I think it was several hours ago technically, but we're in a massive window. And so what's happening for many of us in the coming months, you're going to receive a download. You're going to receive a file. For some of us, it's going to be a dream. For some of us, it will even be a telepathic message. For some of us, it'll come in the form of another person or a synchronistic event. But we are in a celestial integration window. And so what happens during that process is our soul group. If you're wondering, who am I talking about, everyone, and Laura, our extraterrestrial soul family begins to reach out, or at the very least, I shouldn't say reach out. It's almost like a pre-recorded download that we set up for ourselves. But I'm wondering if you can comment on the extraterrestrial presence or the extraterrestrial maybe frequency or contacts that you've had around this sort of eclipse thing. And
well,
so yeah, I realized that was a lot.
Understand
so
is
go ahead.
We're connected to whatever is extraterrestrial, and also what's negative as far as the way we relate to certain alien beings. I mean, we're multidimensional. And the thing that we need to figure out is, how are we being played to only associate with a certain portion of our multidimensional self, right? So integration of polarity is extremely important. I feel there's a really big negative ego construct that has shaped society and has caused us to relate to each other through the lens of social engineering. I mean, in high school, it's like there's bullies, there's cliques, and it's like there's that time that a lot of people relate to where, oh yeah, when I was in kindergarten, these guys were my friends, but as we got older, it's like they rejected me and hated me for whatever. I mean, these are common stories. So the whole deal is that there's an indoctrination program that happens from the get-go. And they want to continually upgrade it with mandatory vaccinations and false flag events that freak people out enough to be like, oh, well, I'll just join in that and trust that. They've lost connection with their own intuition. And it's not a judgment thing. It's like, wow, like, how can we help them return? Like, does it do well for us to like brand them as sheeples? Or, I mean, we're the activators here. We need to like be spiritually mature enough to, you know, not go into the clicky, like sometimes I feel like we're lost in like a freaking high school nightmare. Like, can we be more spiritually mature and help each other? I mean, so what are your thoughts?
Actually, first of all, I want to say I actually do believe that we will repeat and constantly cycle through the social development timelines in our life, or the experiential cycles. So there is a weird synchronicity to you saying, you know, it's almost like we're back in high school with respect to certain elements of self-acceptance, or just the social kind of hierarchical developments that we're seeing. And first off, I also want to just divert for a second. Hello to everyone that's watching. Laura and I are having a very interesting and bizarre conversation here. I want to say hello to all that. Let's say we got 143 people here hanging out with us. So, hey, you guys. And I also want to say we're going to be hanging out here for a little, just a little while longer. But if you have any questions, you guys, about how you're experiencing this emotional energy during the timeline, Laura and I have both been experiencing this in our own way, but I'm going to try to divert. We've been taking a lot of weird turns with our questions here. This is a total non sequitur, Laura, but one of the things I've been noticing recently in the news, or what we'll call the news, is this sudden change, get ready, sudden change in subject, the royal family. And how there seems to be a change in the, you know, maybe the status. There's an insignia that has been removed from the palace. There's some new guards. And there's been a lot of changes in that. And I know that's a very sudden turn, so we're gonna roll with it. But I would like you to comment on that. What do you feel about
that's a really good turn. Yeah. When all this news that is trying to siphon energy, it's like literally a starving race of individuals that rely on our loosh and will try and play out their role as some sort of unelected control force that connects to the cabal or the deep state or the Illuminati or whatever, you know, these, you know, family lines. But they are being shut down. So the desperation is being fed through the media in order to steer a narrative that people will adapt themselves to, and, you know, keep something alive that is inevitably going to die. And those beings that are falling into those traps are going to have a breakthrough. I trust that there's going to be some sort of life event that gives them a breakthrough and helps them to see, like, oh wow, you know, I got to let go of my ego and this loyalty I have towards this particular race, this particular political party, so that we can actually see how much we've been played as a humanity, because we are fragmented parts of a oneness field, a unified field. And it doesn't mean it's New World Order. That's the false version of it that mimics the call for all of us to come together. But the prerequisite to unity consciousness is being true to yourself and being authentic, and knowing where you need to have boundaries, and knowing where you need to, you know, step up and be a voice. It's like we have to let go of the narratives and the propaganda, and actually really like dig deep and go through that dark night of the soul, which we're all going through as a humanity. I mean, it's relying on trigger events to make us so unconscious to the point where we believe what we're seeing. The true reaction that most humans are having right now is this something's not right, you know. And it's not about right or wrong, it's not about right or left, it's about stepping back and saying, this doesn't feel right. You know, the soul of a person has to understand the detriment of buying into certain things that make you hate and make you in such a duality that you are going to be so loyal to a movement, a political party, a system, or a religion, or a lack of religion, or a hatred of whatever, to step back and say, you know, we're actually a global family. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. I feel like a lot of people that are really lost and that want to hate Trump, or the people that are holding on to a Democratic Party that they're loyal to and don't want to see the infiltration that's happened. So like, it happened to the Republican Party too. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, can we like kind of like have a sense of humor and realize like maybe there is a Trump card? Maybe Trump is not a political party. Maybe he is somebody who's going to take down the deep state. But is that wise of us to rely on? No. What we need to rely on is our ability to stand up and hold ourselves accountable to being leaders and being authentic, and, you know, putting our intentions in the right places without getting caught up in the game and the chessboard. I mean, I support the Trump administration, but I've never voted for a president. The reason I support him is because it's very obvious that there are things that he's doing that the Hillary Clintons and the Bush dynasties wouldn't have been able to achieve. And we see Joe Biden being the Democratic candidate. It's like, it's turning into a joke. So it's not about like encouraging people to trust Q and trust Trump, but man, can't we just feed it positive energy instead of hatred?
I feel you. No, absolutely. I will also say I do support Trump in this journey, in this fight, and I know that's always a very polarizing statement. Some people out there, just, it's like, I guarantee it. Some people out there just was all, oh, what, Matthew? What the? Oh God!
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? It will always happen, and you know, hey man, that is cool. History shall be what it is. But I am going to turn a very rapid corner once again, Laura. We're going to turn the car. Here we go. I would like you to comment or maybe just react on this idea that I have right now with respect to people, and I'm going to name names. Everybody, get ready. Matthew's going to get weird. People like Joe Biden, people like Jeff Bezos, people like Bill Gates. And so one of my long-running theories is that, you know, the elitist circles, also probably the Clinton family as well, I believe these individuals have one of the most advanced forms of this sort of AI inoculative virus. I believe many of them have, their consciousness has been replaced. It has literally been replaced by another version of themselves. And here we go, you know, take from this what you can. I believe that part of what is happening with this, you know, we'll call it the injection they all wanted to give us to keep us safe. I believe part of that is a concerted effort to corral the rest of our population into the complete loss of our consciousness, some form of and these are very big, very woo-woo terms. If you guys are watching my live stream, you know we're going to go there. But I believe we're also experiencing a little bit of an AI takeover through what is being kind of placed on us through these individuals. And I'm wondering if you can comment on just what you're seeing with that, with the elites, with respect to AI sentience. Hopefully some of that will make sense.
Yes. I have to go to the ladies' room, and if you
No
give me 2
worries.
seconds, yes.
Actually, I will just talk. We are gonna wait for you to come back. So take your time. But anyway, so as Laura steps out, we're gonna go ahead and check out some of the comments. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. This is really just kind of like, this is a very informal thing. We were planning on doing this like a few days in a row, and there's just all kinds of like weird static and technological stuff, and everybody's been going through their own thing, but the whole like the whole idea behind this is that there's so much energy and so much movement and so many things going on in the world that we're just here to talk about it, to help kind of anchor the frequency. And
Yeah, I have something to say
you're
based
back.
on what you just mentioned.
Yeah, I was talking about AI, and then we went into anchoring frequency, so take whatever you can. We're going to go all over the galaxy.
Right, exactly. So we have to determine within ourselves what the priority is. I mean, if we keep externalizing everything, then we're counting on somebody to save the day. And I don't really agree with that. I feel like we can feel encouraged by something, we can feel offended by something, but at the end of the day, I mean, what does that do to us? We're not just living our lives based on an outer system or program. So,
I feel you. And
a lot of noise around me.
Oh no, that's okay. And thank you. We've been hanging out for a while. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. And for those of you guys that are watching, hello once again. Just a couple quick questions here, some comments. Caleb Burns says, I believe that too. Does that mean that these elites, and I think this is in response to, maybe you didn't hear this comment, Laura, I believe a lot of people in the elite circles are being controlled by a literal, actual AI sentience that steps into their consciousness. And I think Caleb Byrne is saying, does that mean these elites are not responsible for what they're doing? What do you think?
Well, it depends on the people. I mean, why are we expecting something different from them? We need to be brave enough and strong enough to not feed something that is going to continue to enable a time loop of duality, to where we are so caught in a negative time loop that we, create an enemy. I mean, we need to transmute it. We need to alchemize it by understanding that the only reason it exists is because people have bought into a addiction matrix or a feeding of something that is looking to create a reaction. Like a lot of people that think that they're trying to fight the cabal are actually feeding it when they allow the programmings that have been put in place in our societies and cultures to turn us against each other. And, there needs to be an individual breakthrough for all individuals that are paying attention. It's our true organic nature, I feel, is to work together and appreciate diversity and utilize all our differences in a way that serves the collective. But this darker agenda literally wants us to hate each other and is projecting something upon us that might not actually be who we truly are. And so, we need to do that contrast. It's there's a group mind, there's a greater societal system, there's the collective consciousness that we all have to contend with. Yeah. Any empathic soul is going to be overwhelmed by, what they're feeling and sensing in the collective. But we all have the choice to emit a vibration that actually lifts it up, transmutes the duality that's been conditioned into us through the indoctrination of the school systems, religion, and the political world and the entertainment industries. I mean, why are we turning on each other? I mean, the best revelation that any of us could have is, wow, we're actually being taught to believe that we're less than we actually are. And we're actually being taught to feel unworthy of ourselves because something's trying to mind control us into like relating to a false history that has been owned by a particular shadow government that literally lives to make sure that we don't get along. I mean, every world war, every movement is to turn us into enemies against each other. And the priority, I feel, for all of us is to look at who the true monster is instead of judging each other for not knowing how to process it. I mean, we have to have a sense of humor. We have to just come together and allow these adversities to actually help us to have a breakthrough. I mean, regardless of what's happening in the world, we have a choice to perceive it through the lens of this is a catalyst for a huge breakthrough for us to get closer and come together and bypass the programming that's saying you're a racist if you're this color and if you align with this party, this means that this is what you are. It's like, you know, let's have a little bit more compassion and understanding, but also recognize that the worst things that we're dealing with are streaming through the outer culture, the media, the political parties, the religions. And, you know, but at the same time, it doesn't mean it's all bad, but we are way more influential towards it than we realize. I mean, if that's what it's seeking, our response should be the opposite of what it's trying to create. If we're going to take down the deep state, we need to bust it through our own inner processing. It's like, I was writing earlier today where, am I supposed to hate myself for being white? I mean,
there is a program right now that is conditioning certain people to absolutely feel that. For some people, that's a very polarizing thing to hear, but that's part of our experience. And for other people that maybe have, you know, felt certain very polarizing or very pressurized emotional urges, or what are ultimately mind control programs that are being placed upon our population, if you guys have also felt your own version of that, that is a definitely real thing. And so what we're all experiencing at this stage of the eclipse, as we kind of start bringing it, you know, right back around. And this is also a question for you as well that you can answer in your own way as we sort of kind of, and we are going to kind of wrap it up, everybody. I know there's a lot of people hanging out, and me and Laura have been going on and on about all kinds of weird stuff for a while, but the whole object, the whole reason behind this discussion and our own individual viewpoints is because this is the window of opportunity. When Laura's talking about, you know, this, we need to come together, we need to forgive, we need to not buy into a frequency of shame. We are literally in an energetic window of opportunity. It's no longer a thing of science fiction. I guarantee you guys all over the world right now, all these elite people we've been talking about, who I named and probably kicked off the Facebook algorithm with, all these individuals, they are doing these, this is a time of ritual, this is a time of, you know, bizarre sacrifice. And on the light side, on the, you know, on the side of individuals that are working toward this 5D and 4D consciousness ascension, it is time for us to center ourselves. And so where am I going with all this? Where's Matthew going? We are in the window of opportunity. Your thoughts, your emotions, your focus, the conversation that you keep, what you're obsessing on, what you think about in the shower, all of those things right now are becoming real in our world. They're no longer just emotional energy that we sit with. We're sharing on another level. And so I'm going to get your comment on this in a moment. But for those of you guys who don't know, my mission on this earth plane is to help people decode and unpack and remove and clear those energies. And so in your own world, Laura, this is the question. What can people do? How can we heal the emotional body? What do you feel? How do we maintain sovereignty? I know that's a very mixed bag, but go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Well, I think we need to like relate on a common thread of, we all want the same thing. We want balance, wholeness, equality. We want our families to be healthy. We want ourselves to be healthy. We want to cultivate self-love. We want to, you know, embody a timeline that is going to lead to a beautiful future. And, you know, we need to really get to know ourselves to the point where we can see through the lies, we can see through the programs that are actually pitting us against each other. I mean, we all are in this unified field of oneness, but it's not New World Order oneness. It's not the artificial version. It's not the New Age deception either. It's being able to stand really strong in who you are and what you stand for, and recognize that your true nature is not opposed to any race. That's not an organic construct. It's something that was taught and like pushed onto us through programmings, through media, through false narratives, through ancestral patterns that are still holding resentment towards wars that we fought in the past that were actually owned by a shadow group that actually funds both sides of wars and is like literally wanting us to negate aspects of ourselves. I mean, every race and culture is a part of our greater DNA inheritance. We are each other. We are a unified species. We have codes that we are meant to share with each other and remind each other of, not fight each other over. And we need to be able to have enough of an ability to step back and say, wow, there's something that's actually trying to even compromise our own sense of self. I mean, I can't love myself without loving every race and culture. I don't know a self-love that negates any other species. Is that enlightenment? I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to say like, oh, I have it all figured out and I'm like totally enlightened, but it's like foreign to me to not like somebody based on their color or their affiliation with some sort of group. The part of it that starts to trigger me though is when it becomes a war. Like, why would we do that? I mean, is that not like a form of like our own personal like self-negation? I mean, if being an astrologer and somebody who's worked with the tarot for like years, it's like all these pieces are a part of us. And when we can't embrace the fullness of all our differences and we turn into a war and a battle or an ego like construct of I have to be right and everything I say is right, it does not encourage human sovereignty. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is there's no ultimate truth as far as information goes. The ultimate truth, though, that we need to adopt is integrity, compassion, and the ability to be transparent enough to talk about our wounds and our traumas and work it out with each other instead of like have it create this acting out and this anger towards one another. You know, if we don't understand this dark system that has tried to pit us against each other, we're never going to really appreciate the fullness of who we like truly are. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I am totally with you.
I mean, I don't feel separate from anybody, but yet I feel there is a programming in this world that wants us to hate ourselves to compensate for the victimization of somebody else. When, if we look at history, there's been multiple Holocausts against multiple races. And there's a Khazarian mafia, there's a cabal, there's a shadow government, there's the Illuminati that literally thrives on us doing this to one another. When really, we're way closer than we realize. And we are just like, I feel like every race is my best friend. Every color is like, oh my gosh, you know, but I'm confined to this body that's a white female. Okay, so I'm supposed to process my reality through this choice that I might have made to be this person. I don't feel separate from everybody though. I don't like the narrative that's being steered that is actually saying that there's a problem with it and that must mean that you're born racist because of your color. It's like,
right.
Is that, you know what I
No,
mean?
no, I'm absolutely 100% with you. I feel like you're unpacking this in a way that probably only you can. And I feel like there's a group of like 160 something people here with us going, yes, thank you. Because there's like a thread and an element of a frequency of truth that I think is being articulated in a way that I think that only certain people can when you really tap into like the collective energy. I would say having said all that, having gone through all this wild stuff today and all this interesting turns and corners, I will add that if there's something that people need to know at this stage of the journey, like I said multiple times, you guys, the whole reason why me and Laura got together today to do this is because this craziness, the pressurization, the self-imposed mind control, hatred, frequency that's being placed upon us right now is for a purpose. It's because once again, we are in one of the most open and opportunistic energetic windows for the steering of our timeline. And so right now, it is very important for us to, resist this frequency of resistance, of confrontation, of self-hatred, of self-punishment, of self-imposed shame that's coming in here. Because by June 21st, this is where Matthew gets really weird. By June 21st, you guys, we're going to be entering a whole other phase of emotional, physical, spiritual, energetic evolution. It's a solar eclipse. It's the reason why all these conversations and many people are doing lives right now, whether they know it or not. That's the cool thing. You guys have seen a big group of individuals suddenly show up on all over public stuff and social media the past few weeks. And that's because you are part of this soul group. If you've been drawn to this live stream here today, it's because you are part of the soul group of individuals that came here to turn this around, to steer this timeline back toward, and we've been on it the entire time, but we're in some bumps right here, back toward organic ascension. And so Laura's been talking about this in her own way. I've been talking about it in my own way, but the whole object is here, everyone. You need to be very sovereign in your emotions. You need to be aware of your thoughts. And I would say, in sort of closing, and I'm going to go ahead and let you, just make one more comment if you would like. We need to be really aware of who and what we are aligning with. Does it make you feel good, or does it make you feel confrontational? Does it make you feel safe, or does it make you feel, at odds? And those are very basic elements, but go ahead and add your own comment to that. And yeah.
Well, the whole concept of enslavement to me is being very limited to a belief system that is based in ancestral patterns, societal programmings, or whatever physical vessel you were born into. I mean, why is that a dividing factor? I mean, we're meant to be the full rainbow spectrum and activate our dormant DNA that literally includes everything. Like, wholeness is the integration of polarity. It's the integration of, opposing elements. It's the understanding of it by doing the shadow work and being able to embrace, the alchemy, but I feel like people are not realizing how their belief systems are enslaving them way more than a cabal could ever enslave them. It's like, we gotta answer to ourselves. Like, where are we letting ourselves be siphoned from, vampired off of, and treated like shit for whatever reason in our history that's been rewritten and absolutely compromised by a force that literally wants our fragmented nature to hate our aspects that we haven't integrated. I mean, it's thriving on it. It's a parasite, right? So if we're not in balance in our own lives, just like in the physical world, if we don't clean up after ourselves, we might attract germs and mice and cockroaches and all these things that are going to feed on a state of imbalance, a state of lack of purity. But we don't have to be anal either. We can have a sense of humor and realize, to me, we're rebuilding the architecture of our DNA, and it relies on us accepting that diversity and harmony is true oneness. The New World Order agendas want us all to be the same, wants us all to be mind controlled and limited through a perspective of compliance and reactionary tendencies towards a fear response to a propaganda or agenda that, you know, is almost making fun of us.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel connected with everyone and everything. I don't understand this right and left war, racism, you know, spirituality versus religion. You know, it's like everybody's trying to choose something outside of themselves to identify with for a sense of self-worth, when our sense of self-worth should actually be what boundaries do you need, and how can you cultivate a sense of love towards all this diversity without, you know, losing a sense of self. Because
Yeah, no, I feel you.
I just feel like we're a lot more united than we'll ever begin to realize. And there's a very negative force that is counting on us actually thinking differently. And it's because of the false educational systems. It's because of the power structures that create false narratives through the news. And it's playing on people's like wounded inner child that has lost the true sense of mother earth, like father's, like the true divine template, you know, that unites us all without us having to give up our individuality. It actually like is turning us against each other.
Yeah.
And it's making fun of us because it sees that we so easily become an easy food source. It's a very sad system, but it's beyond like Project Mockingbird or the media. These are dark technologies that have been put in place for thousands of years. I mean, it started off in the Lyran Wars. You know, once we were given the ability to have free will, the task for anybody that became human was to learn the right use of power and to use that power of ego in a way that could serve unification, to rebuild the DNA architecture that fell into the tree of knowledge and the dumbed down DNA in order to, you know, learn life lessons. The outer propaganda is replacing it and supplementing it with falsities that are continuing a very destructive pattern. So if we could just step back and find ourselves and learn to rely on our higher guidance and intuition, I think we would realize that we are actually aren't against each other at all.
Yeah.
We are answering to a false history, the negation of huge parts of our DNA, and a rewritten history that is in the school systems where we don't understand our galactic history, and we're buying into dead sciences that actually encourage us to think that dying and aging and getting sick is a part of just a normal like human condition.
Oh,
And it's
very.
not.
Mm-hmm.
We have to challenge all that.
Yeah. No, thank you, thank you. We are at the stage in this year in 2020 in which those challenges, in which the sort of stepping into more fully into ourselves and that empowerment. This is the opportunity window once again for those of you guys that are watching. And so why are we going on and on and on and on about all this stuff, you guys? This is the window between now and June 21st of this year. Your thoughts, your decisions, your actions, your alignment are more important than ever before. And so as we kind of start wrapping it up here, I'm just going to mention, you know, for those of you guys that are interested, this is kind of a weird conversation series that I've been doing. Laura didn't know she was a part of it. I had to kind of sneak her onto my page, but it's just called Strange Communications in the Digital Realm. And it's just kind of an ongoing, kind of bizarre talk that we're going to be having with people. And so I really want to thank you for being here and for being real and authentic and for allowing the true, you know, bizarreness of our internal realm to kind of show itself and to talk about it, and especially to talk about the stuff that we can't really talk about in everyone else's show and on their live streams and all that stuff. And so I want to thank you for being real and hanging out with me. For everyone else that doesn't know, you guys, Laura is one of the first people I ever did energy work on. You probably don't even like remember. It was back in 2016 when I first started doing the work that I'm doing now. And we did a little crown chakra blessing at Mount Shasta. And so, you know, just this journey over the past few years has been very synchronistic and very aligned. And honestly, I'm deeply honored to be a part of this soul group with you and everyone else. And so thank you for hanging out with me today. Thanks for getting real and weird.
Oh, well, you know, it's really hard to articulate some of these things, but I guess my basic point is, and check out the windstorm hanging out around me.
I love it.
Yeah, that, you know, we are rebuilding the architecture of our DNA, and we all like have codes to share with one another. Unity consciousness isn't about becoming the same. It's about harmonizing diversity and accepting our differences and like holding space for it with compassion and an open mind, because, you know, we all have something huge to share. But if we constantly allow the external forces to define us, we're going to miss the mark. We get lost in the storylines when we should see them as huge catalysts for us getting closer to one another instead of further apart.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thank you for everybody for watching. We're going to do this again. I don't know, maybe in a few days, a few weeks, who knows? Time is changing, you guys. So at this stage, a year is a month and a week is a year. And so for everyone that's watching, thank you for hanging out on this live stream. Is there any events you want to mention real quick, Laura? Anything?
Yeah, well, I'm doing a 2-day workshop starting tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific time, hosted by Portal to Ascension. And you can sign up if you go to my website, cosmicgaia.org, and you scroll down beneath the bio, you'll see all the information about it, and just click onto the picture that is all about it. And yeah, I'm sharing everything about all the dark technologies that have been put in place in the Earth grid since the fall from these higher dimensional energies that have created amnesia and a loss of our galactic history, a loss of our DNA. And it's a big reminder just to activate people to take something good from it. But, you know, make it your own personal experience. It's not about me having all the answers. It's about me holding the intention of helping to remind people of who we truly are and what we've been robbed from, and reclaiming this lost history and these lost aspects of self. And there's no one ultimate truth. The greatest truth is your ability to stay aligned with your higher awareness and your intuition, and to be a part of a greater conversation to get answers without us judging each other for maybe not seeing it the same way. I mean, there's a huge opportunity that I hold the intention to expose people to in this weekend workshop. And you can find, oh, all these people behind me, hello. Yeah, you can find out about it on my website.
No, thank you so much. So yeah, you guys check that out. Go to her website and check that out. Also, for any of those of you guys that are interested in going through a 7-week energy body transformation process, and a lot of the there's eclipse action, astrological alignments, and especially this thing called fourth density that we are all experiencing, the next wave, the next evolution of human consciousness. One of the projects I have is called the School of Multidimensional Intuition. You can check it out on YouTube. You can also go to my website, rememberyourmission.com. We have a really cool new, this is true multidimensional intuitive training for those of you guys that are expanding in the next stage of your abilities. So please do check it out, rememberyourmission.com. And Laura, I truly honor you. Thank you for hanging out with me. And it looks like you guys got the storm brewing over there.
Yeah. And my kids are all like gathering, and I'm so glad they moved home, like in this weird quarantine time. They're all waving, hi.
All right, what's up, everybody? How's it
Yeah,
going?
How you doing?
Hey, much
Nice
love.
What's up?
All
Yeah.
right, thanks. We're gonna go ahead and let you go. I know you got everybody there. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love you all. And yeah, let's find our true connection with Source and realize that we're reuniting.
Oh, And I think it dropped. We got it. We got it right at the end. So thank you, everybody. I think Laura dropped out right at the last second there. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to go ahead and close it. Please join us on Sunday. I'm going to be coming in with Eric Rains. Who knows? Laura might even join us again. We're not sure, but please check us out on YouTube at School of Multidimensional Intuition, and also my website, Remember Your Mission. Looks like we lost Laura right at the end there, but thank you, everybody, for hanging out. We love you guys. And yeah, this is the time, you guys, the eclipse window. Stay sovereign. Your thoughts, your dreams, what you're thinking about and obsessing on is becoming real in real time. So it's more important now than ever. I love you guys, and thanks for hanging out. That's it.